Hello, hello. Sorry I'm late. I had to rejoin a few times to get it to connect.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Zoom thing.
happy Martin Luther King Day.
Right, it's a holiday in the States.
Well, yes, it's a federal holiday. It is. It is. And some companies are taking it. My
Okay.
kid is off. That's interesting. I'm, I'm working. So,
Right.
but I find that less meetings are happening today. So,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
I yeah. Okay, so now we're onto the business of bite-sized trust, and we have signed the agreements and the non-compete and the whole thing there. Because what we what we wanted to do was to pass the to get the next videos up published. I try to set a cadence of about one video every 3 to 4 days. So if we're ready to go, I had been putting in the channel the ones that are I think are fully, baked. And
Okay.
if I don't get Drummond gave some feedback, but I didn't hear a solution to it. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep that in mind. But we have here protecting private keys is video number one that's ready to go. So I want to release that today. And then maybe on Friday to release the what is governance video.
Okay. I just see you have assessing risk.
Yeah, so if we go all the way back to January 9th, that's when I started putting up the baked ones. So we have on January 9th, we have
Oh, okay.
protecting private keys. So that one is ready to go. And then the first one of the governance videos, what is governance? And we have gone through them in other bite-sized trust meetings. So
Okay.
I'm just, we've gone through
Well, I
this
just love
group.
hearing your voice, so I could hear it
So you
again
can
and
just
again.
listen to them on repeat here. I'm getting there's a number of them. There's a bunch of them. So yeah.
You haven't done the trust registry because I have a meeting at trust registry
Oh
and
no, I do have a trust registry one up.
you do where? What's the
Yeah,
link to
okay. So
that?
let me pull, how I always find them is in the bite-sized trust charters, force, and scripts. That's where all the links to everything, like everything is.
I want to play it today. Do you mind?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so but
Is
here's the fastest way to get it. That's the playlist of all the bite-sized trust videos. And trust registries is the last one on the playlist.
oh, so but does that mean that's
When we think
published?
about trust on the internet, we often think of passwords or verification codes, but under the
Well,
hood,
you
trust
just gave
flows
me
are
to the
two
first one.
simple
It went right in.
paragraphs. Public
Yeah, but
trusts can
that
be
should be the play.
presented
I'm gonna pull that up
A
myself.
digest
Have
is
a
a kind
look.
of digital
It does
fingerprint. It is
autoplay.
created using a
Come on,
hashing
pause.
Yeah,
algorithm,
not a
which takes
place. How do
any
I?
text,
And then you should have a list on
document, a photo,
on the
even a
right.
whole
Yes. Okay. Hold
And
on.
that's the full list of all the videos. And the last
Trust
one,
registries. Okay.
22.
decentralized identifiers, or DIDs, contain public keys linked to the subject of a DID document. These keys let that subject prove who they are, sign credentials, and verify claims. Now, imagine Alice says she has a degree from Acme University. She shows you a signed credential to prove it. But how do you know she's really educated Alice and not duplicitous Alice with a fake credential? You start by checking the credential signature. It points to the issuer's DID, Acme University. You resolve that DID, retrieve the DID document, and verify the signature using the public key listed there. Here's the problem. Both educated Alice and duplicitous Alice might present credentials that are technically valid, each signed by a different DID claiming to be Acme University. So which one is real? That's where governance comes in. DIDs themselves don't express human or institutional trust, they only prove key control. To know who actually controls a DID, we need to look beyond the cryptography. Enter trust registries. A trust registry is where governance based trust meets technical trust. It lists DIDs that have been verified or endorsed by a recognized authority, like an
Yeah.
education network, government, or standards body. So Acme University's true DID will appear in trusted registries referenced by others, while a fake or duplicitous DID will not. That's how decentralized identity blends cryptography and governance to help us know not just that a claim is signed, but who is really behind it.
So here's the thing about that. The script for that didn't come from me,
No, it came from me.
right?
It came
So
it came from the
you know,
trust registry.
I gave you something and then you took it,
No, no,
and
no, 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 no. That's an older one. Your one is also coming up. There's
where
another script coming up about trust registries, and the video
where would I
it
find
hasn't
that?
been published yet. It's sitting on it's not available yet. So let me
Oh,
see. So if you want to see, okay, here is
so
the
I,
document. This is the master document with everything. That trust registry video was made together with the trust registry task force. And it was made before Christmas time. So
okay,
this is the document. This is the document that's everything bite-sized trust. And when I go through the scripts, so if I go to scripts finished, then we get all the published ones. And
right.
that includes this. This is the trust registry that I did in concert with the trust registry task force. Now, the scripts that are about to be published, at the very top, I have scripts ongoing, but that haven't been published yet. But some of them are more ready and some of them are less ready. So at the bottom is scripts with videos. So protecting private keys is the one I just talked about. What is governance is up, ready to go. Players in a governed ecosystem, how governance ecosystems assess risk. These videos are all finished, how conformance schemes work.
Where I'm okay, I'm trying to find out where this.
Yeah. Can you see because I put it all with headings. Can you see the headings on the
Yeah, so this is what on scripts finished?
yeah, so the script's finished is like everything is done. The videos are up, nothing is changing. They're
Oh,
finished.
script idea. Well, we in script ideas. No, where are
So
we?
in scripts ongoing, these are
Oh,
not yet
scripts
published.
ready for slides. What trust registries do.
Yeah. So
Okay,
that I have that script finished. I have it recorded, but I don't have slides made for it yet. And that
okay,
was the last because if we go to scripts with videos, those are starting from what is governance, those are the ones that you worked with me on.
right.
Okay, so protecting private keys is the first one, but then we get into your what is governance. So
Yeah.
I have slides, I have videos fully generated up to I think how do they assess risk? Because that's up on the here in so I have what is governance, and I have players in the governed ecosystem, and I just put up assessing risk. So that's as far as I am right now. That's
All right. Well, so here's the thing, and maybe tell me what I can and can't do, or should I hold off? So I'm leading a task force for the Creator Assertions Working Group, which
yep,
is jointly done by the Trust over IP. So, we
yep,
have connection. And we have members of this task force from industry,
yep,
that are in the point. And I'm asking Daryl, and he volunteered, he can speak today about IRA, talk about how trust registries are created.
yep,
The point is how do we create, because we have in this in COG, we have one trust registry. It was self-created by the press industry to identify press companies that have the right to say that they are part of the press industry.
Yeah.
And created a trust registry and have organizational certs, not DIDs. So that's why, I was looking at the
That's
DID
why the
thing.
first one didn't work, because
Right.
the
It's
first
not
one was,
working. Yeah, DIDs are
yeah.
gone DIDs are done. DIDs are done, to be honest with you. Because they're even saying and I talked to Drum around it, but people are saying in the community that they don't want decentralized credentials in trust registries until they fix the DID security problem.
What's the did security problem?
Well, so many
Oh,
did, and I asked Drummond about that, and
many dids
Drummond
are not
said
secure.
there are DID methods that
Yeah.
are insecure.
Yeah.
And it started with did web, really, really
Yeah.
highlighted it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they came up with did WebS and
Yeah.
other now we're at skids.
It's
That's
good. Yeah.
that's Drummond seems to think that's the answer, but still we have hundreds, and so I had a conversation with Grace Raswamy last week, and because I said she wanted to talk, catch up because I met her before in one, and she's the head now of Diff. And I said, what are we going to do about this? So the challenge exists that there's a lot of fight going on in the task force, the DIDS task force, around because they decided that they're
Ah,
going to promote three. And I said, yes, we need to get no more than three and get it endorsed and get people to start using only those three. And she said there's still a lot of fighting going on.
right. Oh, here and here's Drummond. Hello. I'm trying to turn off the damn share. Oh, stop share. Drummond, we were talking about we we were talking about Scott wants a better trust registries, more generic trust registry. The first trust registry video that I did was developed in concert with the Trust Registry Task Force, and it goes because everything else has been talking about DIDs through all the other bite-sized trust videos. It says, okay, now you have a DID, but how do you know the degree was signed by real Acme University and not fake Acme University? Well,
Right,
you look up Acme University's DID, you look it up in a trust registry.
right.
Now, Scott is in a more general world view of trust registries that don't just hold DIDs, but hold other things as well,
Okay.
because DIDs are not fully baked to be accepted by the industry because of the risks with security, which is what a lot of the bite-sized trust videos point out.
Yes.
Well, they do point out, oh, what happens when you do this? Well, it turns out that some trust registries solve it this way and other trust registries solve it that way, but many others, like did web, don't do anything.
Right.
So that's been the work of bite-sized trusts. So um, I mean, Scott, I could make the vocal recording for this is ready to go. The slides are not. That's for the what trust registries do. So trust registry, this is the one that I did with Scott. Trust registries aren't new. Long before the internet, people needed to figure out who they could rely on. Business registries told us which companies were officially allowed to operate. The yellow pages, good housekeeping, digital world, trust registries. So blah 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 blah. Not specific to the did solution, but more general. Scott, if I haven't had time because I've been pushing through things in sequence. I've got
Yeah, I don't want to I don't want to be mucking up the, sausage making operation.
yeah, that's
But
right.
do
There's,
you do the audio before you do the slides?
I have the script, and then depending on how my sausage day is, I'm either doing if I'm on a roll for slides, I do slides. If I'm pumping through a bunch of recordings and I've got it good, then I just keep recording. So now where that one is, I'll show you. This is the latest step. I have the script finished. I have the recordings finished.
Oh, you finished the recording for what trust registries do?
And it's local on my machine. I don't have it. When I finish stuff, if other people were working on it, I would upload it sooner. I do archive them on the Bite Size Trust Google Drive, so that
So is this a compilation of 11 little snippets? Is that what it
yeah,
is?
because I don't do it in one take. Because then I cough or I like choke on a word and then I'm like fuck, and then so the fastest way for me to do it is I break it into little chunks because then I don't have to spend editing time going through scrubbing through a recording and figuring out where the bad part is. I just
Sounds good.
paragraph by paragraph.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you just play them sequentially.
Yeah, I because I leave silence at the start and the finish, I have to overlap them a bit. And at this point I can
Right.
do it by eye in the editing software.
Well,
So,
and in this, so Drummond, so I'm having my meeting in 25 minutes with the Trust Registry Task Force of COG,
oh, I can't
which
pull it
I've
together in
asked,
25
I
minutes.
asked, I asked Daryl because Daryl said, yeah, I'll come and I'll talk about IRA. And we're having a meeting. It's still MLK Day, but I figured I would I think I needed to take a step back and educate everybody on the same page because we have industry and they really don't know what a trust registry is, or they need fodder so that they can educate their constituents. And, bite-sized trust on what trust registries do I think that's the first step, right? Of educating people on trust registries. This is, and so I inquired to Carly where we're at with this so I could use it.
Yeah,
At
I'm
least I
at
have the script.
slide one.
I can show the script up and say, this is what's coming. Um, and and I might do that because I think that's going to be the topic of today is explaining to people what it is first so that we can get consistency regarding how the industry has to create their own trust registries and then come up with some standardized, specification on that, you know? What is it? How do they attach themselves? What are required fields and what's not
So I'm just gonna, for Drummond's sake, I'm gonna walk through again everything, the status of everything at every step along the way is all in the bite-sized
That's
trust,
Sausage Giant is the sausage document.
the
Yes.
sausage document. So I do everything with headers. The so so if we go through publish videos, playlist, and I've been writing summaries as well as I've been going along. And then the contributors, every time I have somebody who contributes that wasn't on the list before, I add to the list. Then I have my ongoing scripts. So either the scripts are being written, and then I've got a bunch of scripts being written. I have scripts ready for fact checking, and if they're not finished, if there's nothing there, I put empty in. Then I've got scripts ready for slide generation. So that's that trust registries one. And then I've got scripts when I've got the slides and the video and the slides and the recording finished, it goes ready for video generation. And then these ones are scripts with videos. So these ones are ready. They're like in the final approval process. So today I was getting, you have seen, I have posted on the thing, protecting private keys is up. What is governance is
Yep.
up in the channel. So I put those on my private YouTube channel for drafts. And I have three more I have to finish.
When
Uh,
you say
they
for
they've
drafts,
been finalized. We talked about them in another meeting, and they're sitting ready with the files ready to just be generated and put up. And I didn't want to put up 10 at once because nobody has time to look at 10 at once. But when I put up one occasionally, I do get more feedback. And then below that, then I've got my random scripts And actually I do clean up. We did the governance scripts.
I see. Okay.
Okay. And then,
Right.
so these are more like somebody in a meeting said something and I'm like, oh, maybe one time I'll do something like that.
Right. Right.
Right. So then I've got all my ideas. And then at the bottom are finished scripts. These are published. So
Wow.
those are all the published scripts.
All
And
the
then I
abandoned.
have the abandoned
The
ones.
abandoned ones.
Yeah.
Oh, ones you
Yeah,
wouldn't.
I like the abandoned ones. Those
You
are,
were the
those
reason they
are,
were abandoned. I had the video up and you were like, no. So I abandoned them.
yeah, I don't know why administrative trust. What's that? Why I
That was
like that.
that video is up in that I have that whole video done. I don't like it.
Why not?
They're the misfits, I guess, but I like
Yeah.
them.
I know, well, we can pull out we can pull it out again if we want.
Why
So
is
I just
understanding S509 certificates abandoned?
Yeah, because I didn't get traction and feedback and I didn't want to continue.
I like
We
that.
can pull her back up. That's the whole I
Yeah,
constantly shuffle scripts around and stuff like that. So
yeah.
that's how this document runs. It's a series of headings and the sausage script gets shuffled through the different steps. So if you ever want to know what status things are at,
There it
I
is.
do all my work off of that. And if you screw it up,
Yeah, don't screw it up. Exactly. Like when the Google Drive got moved and you were like,
that was heartbreaking. Okay, so in the scripts being written, because I'm trying to keep the sausage factory going here because I've been sick. So I would have liked to have released these earlier, but I have the first one from January 9th, protecting private keys. And Drummond, you gave me some feedback. Rules is society, and we use policies as a term, and I will keep that in mind, but I don't think I'm going to redo the video to add the term
yeah,
policies.
yeah, that's fine.
So that one I was going to load out today, and at the end of the week, I was going to put the first of the governance videos up. And then the next one I have is the players. So next week I will release that one. And then I've got assessing risk. So as far as the work goes, I have to finish generating the last of these. I know they say they have videos. But the videos were previously released. We reviewed them in Bite Size Trust. I went back and made changes, and now I have to do the second video generation. So that's where those guys are. Then I have to do the slides for what trust registries do, and I hadn't made the slides because I was having a hard time thinking of what to do for the slides. But that's my next task. And then I wanted to go through today in the last bit of time. First of all, do we agree that I am clear to release those videos that I just talked about that are fully done in the Discord channel?
Yeah, the
Scott, they
ones
were
you
all
should.
your governance ones too, and we have reviewed them in this meeting. Now, also Scott and Drummond, I can always make them better. Like every time I watch them, I'm like, this is crap. I fucked up. It should never have been finished, right? But it'll never be finished.
That's
So
right.
I'm going for 80. I'm
Yes,
going for the A. It's
which is
got to
the
be
right.
good enough so I can get on to, I can release more clarifying videos later and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay.
No, that's the right thing to do.
So
Is
that's what I'm going
yes,
for. So then
exactly.
in the scripts being written, we had a discussion in the chat where Sankarshan thought that the example, I give the bartending example, but Sankarshan wanted a higher stakes example. But then Neil pointed out that you can't drop in zero knowledge proofs into these higher stakes things because there's usually associated governance that prevents that. such as you have to record the evidence for the decision that you made, and a zero knowledge proof is insufficient for that proof right now, according to regulatory. So I think it makes more sense to go back to the Alice in the bar to buy a drink, and then she uses a zero-knowledge proof, because that is a place where you can have a drop-in, because there isn't governance around that the bartender has to keep a scan of everybody's driver's license, that kind of
Right.
thing. Okay, so that one is ready then. Today, I'm going to move this guy. We've done the fact checking already. It has gone through, so it's going to go into ready for slide generation. And
Yeah,
that's
but you must-
literally how I move things around and keep track of what I need to do next.
We're watching the sausage being
You're
made.
watching the sausage, yeah.
Yeah.
And scripts being written. I don't know if I'm going to actually do those next. Didcom, I still need feedback on. Now, Anchor's signature, this one came out of Carrie meeting. And Sam Smith was talking about how only Carrie does anchored signatures and people aren't more aware of the risk and stuff. So then I said, oh, could I talk with somebody to make a script to make people more aware of the risk then? So I did some of this with Kent Bull, and then I need to go back. I need more feedback on it, but I could read it out today. It's a bit long. I don't know if I can short it. Imagine Alice applies for a job and the employer wants to verify her university degree. She presents a digitally signed credential from her university. Just like a handwritten signature, this digital signature proves the university really issued it, and the employer can confirm that by checking the university's public key in its DID document. So far, so good. But digital security best practices says keys should rotate. Universities regularly replace their signing keys to say stay secure, and their DID document updates accordingly with the latest public key. Depending on the DID method, you might even be able to look up old keys. Now, here's the problem. What happens if an old key gets compromised? Suppose someone steals a past signing key. They could generate a fake degree and sign it with that old key. When the employer checks, the signature will look valid because it is cryptographically valid for that key. And without more information, the employer cannot tell the difference between a legitimate degree issued years ago and a fraudulent one created yesterday. To try and fix this, you could try publishing when the key is compromised, but you might never learn that it was stolen. Or you could reissue every single past degree with the newest key, but in practice, that quickly becomes unmanageable, especially for large institutions with years of records. This is where anchored signatures come in. Instead of relying on the key itself, the university keeps a tamper-evident log of every degree ever issued. Each time they sign a new credential with a given key, they add a record to the tamper-evident list, log, or ledger. If someone later tries to forge a degree with an old compromised key, the forgery won't appear in the university's historical log. Even though the signature is valid, the credential is missing the critical anchor, proof that it was actually issued. To verify a credential, Alice's employer now checks two things, the signature and the history. If the degree is on the log, it's legitimate. If not, someone tried to cheat. There are multiple ways to make this history tamper evident. One approach is anchoring data or cryptographic hashes on a blockchain where many independent nodes observe and preserve the record. Another approach, used by methods like Carrie and DidWebS, relies on distributed watchers and witnesses that collectively monitor and sign the sequence of events. In both cases, the key idea is the same, a transparent, append-only history that cannot be silently rewritten. Anchored signatures turn key rotation from a vulnerability into a strength. Even if a past key is compromised, the integrity of the issued credentials remains intact because the truth is anchored in the logged history, not just the key.
My only feedback is when you use in the last sentence of the second to last paragraph, the key idea, you might not want to use the word key
Oh,
there.
right. Yes. Yeah.
So
I'll just say
the
the
main
idea of
idea or the core idea or something like
Yeah.
that. Proof of speed.
So, I mean, the more we do this, everything comes back to, well, you have to question the authority if it's legit. This is another. Is this another phone home?
Some people would say so, yes.
Can you do, but you should also be able to do the phone home anonymously?
Ah.
So that you don't know they're querying, but you don't know which record exactly. Well, that would be a homomorphic encryption thing, would it? Because I could put the like, yeah. Anyway, this is
Yeah,
my I haven't worked on it past this. I mean, this is Sam is right. This is a risk for these long-lived signatures, for long-lived credentials.
yes. I'd heard about anchored signatures, and I'd sort of thought, okay, what problem is that really solving? And now I understand it's a compromise of a key in the past, or a key that may have been rotated out. Actually, it's compromise of any key because you can check it
Yeah.
currently as well. But yeah, it is a so the other um and I would argue probably less phone home approach to that is to actually standardize for any particular method how you authoritatively uh cancel a key. That's the in other words, if a key, if when you rotate it is no longer valid to use that key, which is, as I understand, is the security best practice, then simply the authoritative record of when a key was valid will already tell you. And you
If
know,
you know, it depends on that you know when the key was compromised and when it wasn't. So in sense, you're adding even more value to a compromised key because, yeah, because now
so
you,
well, what I'm saying is there are two options. The key was compromised before you rotated it, and the key was compromised after you rotated.
right.
If you can prove when the key was rotated, then a compromise after rotation is out of it because it doesn't,
Yep.
you know. But you're right. But the problem is if you don't know if a key is compromised, you're stuck in a number of ways. It is true. One of the things you can do is this, right?
Because
You can,
I could have an old, because it depends on you being perfect. So let's say I have my keys and I'm perfectly rotating them and I never make a mistake and there was never a bug and there was never a shitty contractor being mean or any other reason. I have to have a perfect history because we know that there have been instances like where keys get compromised and
yeah,
right. So
yep.
at some point in that history, maybe I've decided that, oh, I'm just going to do nothing except try and crack key 56 in the history. And when I do, and nobody notices, now I'm going to start selling degrees for $20,000 each, and you won't know, but I will just, slowly leak out a few a month kind of thing. So now you have and I will say, I will date my forged documents from the time period of that compromised key. And it'll take you a while to figure it out.
So, yeah, but two issues there. One
Okay?
is, um, the signatures can incorporate a verifiable time service so that
Ah, okay, okay.
yeah, so it's so then now again it has to be a practice um
Okay,
uh
so that would be another, there are multiple ways.
yeah, I mean this is accurate with regards to a signature of accurate approaches. When I first heard about it, I thought, well, it's a little bit like adding multi-factor authentication to a signature because
Now you have to compromise multiple systems simultaneously in order to be able to forge it,
exactly,
depending on the signature.
exactly.
Yeah.
But part of the challenge, I'm certain Sam has an answer, but part of the challenge is if you have compromised the key, you know, if typically a signature is what you need to do to get something onto the log. So it's like the log is now a system that you can
Yeah, yeah.
compromise as well, right?
Right. So if I compromise today's current key, I can then use but there is a difference between I would have to compromise not only the signature that is being used to sign the degrees, but also perhaps a different key that is the one that can be used to append to the logs.
Potentially. Plus, you
Yeah.
know, someone can be watching the log. Now, of course, how they're going to detect that that is not a valid, you know, degree, for example, is a different process. But it does, you know, it does. The thing I'm most concerned about is it is it adds a lot of overhead to a system, and it adds a centralization component
Yep.
and the phone home thing. Those are the parts that concern me the most. But
Yep.
what you're describing is accurate in terms of this is how anchored signatures work, and you don't have to, you know, defend the whole thing necessarily.
Right.
You just have to be an accurate description.
I could put in another thing that can be silently written. I could go complications with this are that you need to have the infrastructure built to detect this and also the phone home problem. And I can go through, I'm gonna have to figure out how to shorten this. But I mean, I like this. I mean, I didn't know what anchored signatures were until I started on this script, and now I know. And same thing, I think, for Drummond it has succeeded in bringing forward in a way that's easy to understand what the risk is. And then there from that can be the discussion about, well, then let's solve the phone home problem or whatever.
Yep.
Because you don't need you don't need the watcher list. You don't need to necessarily you could download the whole list and then do a search on your own thing, right? You don't have to ask, is this one on the list? You could say, give me the list of everything, and I will find if
Yep.
it's valid or not.
That's true. Same thing is that's true of trust registries in general. Of course, the larger they grow, the more
Hard it is to do
challenging it
that.
is to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you could also
Yeah,
divide it into chunks of signed by this key or within this date range or something like that.
that's true. Yes. Of course, the solution, I'm just sitting here thinking this through in real time. The solution to this, the Daniel Hardman approach, which is if you don't want to have the centralization of the trust registry at all, then you do that by issuing credentials to the you know, parties represent the trust registry, and then they can prove, yes, I've, you know, whatever.
I have the legitimate copy.
Yeah. So literally what it comes down to is you have this, if you took that approach, you literally have, you know, two credentials, right? You'd have the credential that you signed, and then you'd have the credential, you know, it's like a second one, it's like a second factor, a second key involved, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's, you know, it would essentially give you the same thing, because if the same key could be used to issue the credential and make the entry in the
Blockchain.
yeah in the or the trust log or whatever, the anchor log, then it's not adding any
Right.
uh
Right.
safety. Well, I mean, potentially you could say there's an access control piece involved. Um, but yeah, a second key and a
Yeah.
second credential, which is interesting because we have that concept decentralized trust graph working group, as you know, called
Yeah.
witnessing,
Yeah.
right? So a
Yeah.
witness, a
So another
trusted witness.
solution, so verifiable timestamp, multi-signatures to decrease the probability
Yeah, probably
So, unfortunately,
Simultaneous.
I have to bow
Yep,
out. I'm
yep,
running another meeting, so.
yep.
and I'm going to that meeting, so
Oh, good. There you go.
Simultaneous.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So I
All
will,
right.
this is gonna take some work. I think it's a nice script to go through,
yeah,
but nice concept, but it'll take, yeah.
I
Good.
like it.
Thank you.
As usual, great work, Carly.
Thanks.
We're meeting
See you
later
later.
to chat about um the steering committee meeting.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So I'll
That's
talk to you
up.
then.
Good.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.